Welcome to Insights, everyone. I'm Nnamdi Odipo. On this episode, we'll take a look at a project or a venture that promises to be a legacy project, the Abuja Kaduna Kano gas pipeline, which promises of which arguably would be the biggest venture in the history of oil and gas operation in Nigeria. And on the other side, we'll take a look at COVID-19 and its impact on migration worldwide. And of course, also it affects us here in Nigeria. I'll be flipping roles with Elizabeth Omorui on this episode. She will be taking the first part of the program on this episode, of course, as well as the media review segment. Elizabeth?
Well, it's good to be here again. On the discussion segment, sometimes ago I spoke with some analysts, experts in this field, the Abuja, Kaduna and Kano pipeline. They actually dealt with the issue of unemployment, development, and what the project itself portends for us as a nation. And on the media review segment, I chatted with a media practitioner on good governance and the role the media is playing to ensure good governance.
Why don't you just get started and bring you the first segment of the program?
Thanks for joining us. The Abuja Kaduna Kano pipeline is being developed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, to transport natural gas from southern Nigeria to central Nigeria. The pipeline project represents phase one of the 1,300 kilometers long Trans-Nigerian gas pipeline project, which has been developed as part of Nigeria's gas master plan to utilize the country's surplus gas resources for power generation as well as for consumption by domestic customers. With this, Nigeria holds Africa's biggest and one of the world's largest gas reserves. Its proved natural gas reserves stands at 188 trillion cubic feet. What does this feat portend for us as a nation? And I have with me in the studio Mr. Chukwudi Enekwechi, a journalist. It's nice to have you in our studio.
Thank you very much.
I also have with me Mrs. Susan Henshaw, a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you so much.
All right, I think I'll be gender sensitive. I'd like to start with her first. All right, could you tell us, what does this portend for us as a nation? Well, although we understand that Nigeria is not really paying for this.
Well, I have to say, first of all, what it portends for us is huge.
Okay.
I think that for this government, this is really one of its biggest strategies, as far as development. So I commend it a lot for that. Having said that, I mean, the conditions, the loans we are getting and all that, I view them as very favorable. Somebody took time to make sure that this is one of the pretty much very, very well negotiated loans, Nigeria is taking on, and for this specific project, And so what it portends for us, like I said, is quite huge. Not to go into too much details right now about, the benefits of what this is gonna do for this country, but generally speaking, anything that runs from the south all the way across Nigeria is a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this is I think in other parlances is being called the Trans-Nigerian Gas Line Project, which is going to connect us from gas pipelines running all the way from the south, where of course gas is being flared,
Yes.
all the way to past past North Central into the far north, which is as far north as Kano. And the benefits cannot really be exaggerated, employment, industrialization, development, electricity, and all that. So we're really looking forward to that. I think that if we go into the details, really, I'm sure the numbers are probably still being cranked out as far as, how many people, technicians, and so on that are going to be gainfully employed from this project. I think I'm not so sure about currently, but from the last review, this project is supposed to last 2 years. you know, and then at the end of 2 years, we would have added an additional 2,600, you know, megawatts of electricity to our national grid.
Yes.
Yeah, that's huge, you know, especially for the northern part of the country who are going to be direct beneficiaries of this, you know. Before now, all that was being wasted, actually, you know. So even thinking about it in terms of saving all that energy, you know, making money out of it, I think that the plan is to use all this waste being flared right now to produce between 11 and 24 million cubic metric meters of gas a day.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, before we go to the economic implications,
yes,
let's talk to
absolutely.
a journalist.
Okay.
Mr. Chukwudi, some projects being executed. Really, what is your take about AKK?
First of all, I want to say that this is a 614 kilometers gas pipeline being undertaken by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation in collaboration with Oil Serv and Uando. This is the first phase of the this is the first phase of the project that will take gas from the southern Nigeria all the way to Kano. It will run through the corridor of Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano. And this project is meant to bring about gas to power plants that will be sited in Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano at the end of the day. This project is estimated to cost about $2.5 billion. Out of the $2.5 billion, 85% will be sourced from Chinese lenders, while 15% will be based on equity. Already, $430 million has been provided in order for this project to take off. So I give credit to President Muhammad Buhari for accelerating the starting of this project, which has been at the conception level for 15 years.
Right.
So it is a project that is meant to provide jobs, provide power, and in fact is a value chain.
Right.
It has a value chain benefit in the sense that from this project you will get petrochemical plants. From this project you get liquefied petroleum gas.
Right.
From this project you will get fertilizer and all kinds of substances that will help industries to actually manufacture.
Right.
And so along this corridor, as the project is going on, there will be a lot of employment for Nigerians. And let me tell you about the loan. The loan has been acquired at 3.7%, which is very low and repayable over a period of 12 years. So if you look at it, this project will pay for itself at the end of the day. Because along the corridor that it will run through, there will be industries that will spring up, and these industries are going to buy gas, from this project. Therefore, and at the end of the day, this project will end up in Kano and even join, because it's a part of a greater trans-Saharan gas project, which it will export Nigerian gas to the European consumers. That means adding value to our gas, products. Therefore, I think that this is one of the landmark projects that President Buhari can be given credit for. Right. It's one of the landmark projects. I think he has been deliberately conceptualizing projects that will be remembered as legacy projects. Right. And this is one of them. So these are the kind of projects that will actually lay the foundation for total economic rebirth of the country.
Okay. I think I would like to direct the economic impact to her. Now, no doubt this will generate direct foreign exchange. Right. Industries will come up because we understand that some of them have actually left the country. So what do we foresee? How do we benefit economically?
I think that when the president actually was in, I think it was Malabo, last year, where they had the Gas Exporting Countries Forum. He had mentioned, as far back as then, that this project is actually so forward-looking, because what, he intends to happen is for us to be able to lay pipes all the way to North Africa. So you can imagine the enormity of the benefits financially, to be able to export more, of course. And then let's not even go into, like Chukwudi mentioned, all the other industries and factories and so on that would spring up. All that is very cumulative. Now, let me say this. Nigeria loses at least 3% of economic development by not having power, not having sufficient power. Now I can, as you know, this project connects directly with giving us more, generation of electricity. So whichever way you look at it, as far as economic benefits, whether in monetary terms or whether in, other terms, it's a win-win, Let's see what else. I really think that, especially considering the short term of this project, that almost seems like the benefits will accrue literally. I mean, 2 years is really not even medium term, it's short term. So the benefits would accrue almost immediately. As soon as the first phase is completed, we probably would start seeing, benefits, like I said, financial benefits and more.
Mr. Chukwudi, some persons are actually concerned about the date of completion.
Well, I think every project has a timeline for completion, and this one is not different. Okay. This is a project that will add 3,600 megawatts of power to what we presently have, thereby raising our power capacity to almost 10,000 megawatts at the end of the day. Like I told you, there is a multifaceted benefit accruable from this project. And luckily for Nigeria, the company handling it, OESAV, is a very well-known and reputable company. And I believe that that is the reason why the president found them capable to deliver and gave them the job. So Nigerians should wait and see that in the next 2 years, the positive impact of this project would have started crystallizing.
Absolutely.
Would have started crystallizing. In fact, like I said earlier, it is a landmark project, just like the president had done in the agricultural sector. He's doing it in the infrastructural sector. Now he has come to gas. Yeah. And these are the kind of projects that stimulate the economy of a country, laying the basic foundation for the ancillary industries to come up, to spring up. It is when they spring up that people get jobs in the industries. And now we have abundant gas deposit. With this abundant gas deposit, it means that power will be continuous. Power will not fail us in the future. So this is the foundation that is being laid now. And I believe that Nigerians are already applauding Mr. President for his ability, for his vision in, starting this project at this point in time. Okay. It's been a project that has been there for 15 years under conceptualization. Now nobody had the political will to take it up until this president came. So what do you say about that? It means that the president is visionary. He means well for you and I. He means well for the young graduates that are coming up from the universities and polytechnics. Because this is the kind of project that will actually accommodate young graduates.
Yes. That's a plus.
Yes, an
all right, I
absolute
understand
plus.
our legal frameworks to this back in this project. Right. Now let's talk about the issue of connectivity within the states. Will there be any problem? Do you foresee any challenge in the future?
Well, honestly, it would be so counterproductive for any state, for example, to come up and say, oh, we can't have you we won't give you right of way to lay pipes and all that. That would be literally so self-injurious that I think even if, let's say, the government of a state wanted to go that route, be a little political, as it's not unheard of in this parts, I think the citizens of that state would not have it. You know, who tries to mess around with, you know, development or you know, coming to them? Nobody. You know, so like I said, it's a win-win. I think that more than trying to be unreceptive, people will be so much more receptive. And, you know, speaking of the legal ramifications, this is one of the contracts that this country has entered into, and which, by the way, you know, not to slap it on, you know, like they say. This government has been very, very meticulous in its contracts. We have had such post-traumatic stress disorder. This contract is a typical one. I was looking at it the other day, you know, and I was saying at 3.7% interest rate, you know, for a 12-year period. I think it also has a 3-year moratorium. You know, am I right there?
Yes.
Yes, you know, which is really a really good deal. And yeah, and then on top of that, we have just to show you, because you raised the issue of time and completion, just to show you how seriously the government takes this. You know that in 2017 was when this project first went before the Federal Executive Council, and it was approved. Now, since then, of course, like Chukwudi said, it has actually, you know, changes have actually been made, you know, to where now it's no longer the contractor funding, you know, the project. It is Nigeria coming up with 15%, and then the Chinese banks, you know, Chinese coming up with the other 85, you know. This contract has been really solidly put down, you know. The government also has given its full faith and credit to this contract, you know, as far as sovereign, a sovereign guarantee. So everything is robust in that regard. But as far as the other details, I'm going to allow Chukwudi to chip in there.
ICRC, they are the ones that actually package these kind of projects. But now, so it becomes a kind of tripartite arrangement between NNPC, OYESAV, and ICPRC. Right. The other, apart from the contractor, that is the OYESAV, NNPC and ICRC represent the interests of government. Right. Now, and for 2 years, you can imagine when communities have their youths employed to work for this kind of project over a period of 2 years. Definitely there will be empowerment. And then industries will start springing up along the corridors.
How many Nigerians out there really understand this project, what it entails?
Thank you very much for this question. You see, this kind of advocacy you see us doing here, you are a partner for it.
Absolutely.
You are partnering with us. Since we are speaking, we are dialoguing on this project. Nigerians will listen. Nigerians will watch your television and be able to understand. Of course, there is more to be done in order to educate Nigerians about the benefits accruable from this project. But it will be over a little period of time. People will get to know about it. Perhaps 6 months, 1 year, people will get to know about it. But between you and I, we already know that this project has multidimensional benefits for all Nigerians.
What other areas would you like to see development?
We should expect that with the laying of pipes, especially such a massive project, there's going to be disruption of, you know, land from digging. Okay. You're going to have people's farmlands, of course, are going to be caught in this equation. You're going to have wildlife disrupted.
Of course.
You're going to have, you know, and all the kind of menaces that come with huge projects like this, you know. So I want to see the local people very adequately compensated.
Mr. Chukwudi, in 30 seconds.
Yes. You know, before a project like this starts, there's what they call environmental impact assessment.
Right.
All of these have been done, I believe.
Yeah.
And then the gas emissions in the Niger Delta will have a source to be transported to Europe, thereby adding value to our gas, what do you call it, our gas surpluses. Right. So I think that all in all is a win-win for us.
Yeah.
The gas you are wasting in the Niger Delta will now be put into use, into valuable use by the country in terms of production of power, in terms of liquefied petroleum gas, in terms of petrochemical industry, in terms of exporting gas to Europe, thereby bringing more revenue, more foreign exchange to Nigeria and to the Niger Delta people.
All right. I want to thank both of you for your time. Thank you very much.
I appreciate
you.
it. Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Now we'll bring you the interview we had with some migration experts on COVID-19 and its impact on migration worldwide. Reverend Father Emeka Obiezu joins me as a guest panelist. He is the Director, Augustinian Center for Advocacy, Justice and Development, and also the National Coordinator, Civil Society Network on Migration and Development, CSO NetMade. My other guest is Awawo Victor, Director, Center for Youth Integrated Development, and also a member of CSO NetMade. Gentlemen, good to have you both on Insight.
It's a pleasure.
I'll begin with you, Reverend Father Obiezu. COVID-19 has clearly impacted on migration and refugee status across the world. Their vulnerability exacerbated by the lingering crisis. Lay the groundwork for us in terms of some general areas of concern for migrants and refugees, especially during these trying days.
Thank you, Nandi, for having us today on this very important issue, how the COVID-19 pandemic is affecting the persons of concern, migrants and refugees, and as well IDPs, which may also include returnees, as the case may be from Nigerian perspective. We find out that generally on the occasion of emergency, migrants, refugees, IDPs and all these people are the most vulnerable because of the conditions that are associated with their own persons. Conditions like in the terms of those who live in the camps, like the IDPs and refugees. The camps are already overcrowded. At a time like this where they are expected to observe physical and social distancing, such a situation will not make it possible for them to adhere to such practices. Also, we find out that sanitation in most camps is not always the best. So at this time when there is need for them to wash hands and all those things are not also possible as would be expected. We find cases also where it is difficult for these persons of concern to be reached with palliatives and other preventive measures which the system is putting in place to help either curb the situation or prevent its spread. And so in that case, the vulnerability of the migrants and every other persons of concern, as you said, has been exacerbated by this reality.
Indeed.
And also we find situations of stigmatization. That's
let's not. We'll come to the issue of that shortly, and we'll have your comments on that. But Victor, please make this more relatable to us, using the migrant communities and refugee groups in Nigeria as a case study. What are some of the feelers you've been getting from your field reports, citing specific areas, just like Father Obiezu have said, and put that against the migrant situation pre-COVID-19 in Nigeria?
Well, thank you. Yeah, one of the major fillers we've been getting, like he said, is in terms of palliative. I got a call from somewhere related to migrant children, you know, that the palliatives the government is sharing is not reaching them. It's not only in the case of Nigeria, because migrants, especially undocumented migrants, the word undocumented means that they are not documented in this country, and so it's hard to reach them. even though you can see them on the street, but they are not registered in that country. So basically, it's very, very difficult to reach out to that group of people. And he was talking about the camp being congested and all of those stuff. Yes, in Europe, there was a serious crisis about migrants in detention center. There was serious call to let them go, you know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, it's difficult to just let them go because they are held in detention because the government felt that they have violated their migration rules, and so they have to keep them there until they go back to their country. But now there is an issue that they have to release them, and they are not releasing them. So it's a serious issue all over the world at the moment.
Indeed, serious issue all over the world. Father Obiezu, the world would eventually open up and assume some semblance of the past, but of course we know that will be the new normal, which requires that for some time borders remain closed and countries less accessible. Speaking as an expert now, how long do you think these can tarry, and what is your projection for what has to happen eventually?
We are actually very afraid from the migration community the impact this new normal would be for migrants. That is why we have started right now to preempt what we call the post-COVID-19 period. What will we do to the rights of mobility for migrants? Of course, borders will be closed, will be opened, but we are also seeing a number of requirements or prescriptions countries are putting in place to ensure that mobility does not increase the spread of the disease. So our fear is if that is done with any intention, especially in countries where migration has not been friendly in terms of how migrants are related to, we are afraid that if such measures are put in place that restricts the free movement of individuals, it will take a very long time to sustain what has been achieved in pre-COVID era. In 2018, the world gathered in Morocco to adopt the Global Compact for safe, orderly, and regular migration. And one of the things it highlights is the need for people to have freedom to move around and as well as to have migration in dignity. But when prescriptions are put in place to ensure strict border policies, we are afraid that it would affect migrants and it will be 2 steps backwards to what we have done. So we're already having advocates, national, regional, and global, to ask government to make sure that everything we are doing in reopening the borders should as well have migrants at the center of it.
Indeed. I'll stay with you, Father Obiezu. Tell me about your group, the CSO Net Made, and your work with migrants, refugees, and IDPs.
Thank you. Our CSO Net Made, a civil society network on migration and development, is a national movement, a network put in place by civil society organizations. It is actually convened by Augustinian Center for Advocacy, Justice and Development, Justice and Peace, sorry, as well as Center for Women's Studies and Interventions. We set that up in 2016 when we observed that there are a lot of civil society organizations working on migration-related issues in Nigeria, but there's a little coherence in what we do, especially when it comes to engaging with our stakeholders like the government and other actors. So we convenes a consultation where over 50 civil society organizations attended. And from that, the need to set up this network was highlighted and reached. So the network was registered with CSC in 2017, and we provide space for civil society organizations to come together, share ideas and experiences, harness our potential of collaboration, and then also amplify our voices as a unit in advocating for migration. We have made great ways into Nigerian migration governance. Okay. We are already working with Nigerian migration governance architecture under the technical working group, and we are over 47 member registered organizations Currently, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, SDC, is supporting us to strengthen civil society participation in migration governance in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Victor, I know you're also part of the group CS NetMate. Let me take you up on the issue of stigmatization and exclusion and how that affects refugees, migrants, and even internally displaced persons in most cases or in some cases. How is this likely to impact on the ideal of integration and social cohesion for migrants and refugees if stigmatization, misinformation, and discrimination continues to rear their heads during this pandemic?
Yeah, like I said before, we have a serious issue in our hand, and where you have stakeholders not well informed about the reality of people of concern. I remember recently we had a program somewhere, and those people that were supposed to be in charge of this issue said, oh, this is my first time of hearing the issue, persons of concern. And migration generally is about movement of people, and people don't move without a reason. If the homeland is greener, and nobody moves. And so people are moving for certain reason, and there is actually no reason why people should be stigmatized, especially at this point in time. And so if this continue, it's going to be very, very difficult. I don't want to speak specifically about what's happening in Nigeria.
No, please do. Please give us instances and examples.
At the moment,
please, Victor.
It's a global issue. But come back to Nigeria, I think there is a lot of things that we need to do. When this whole issue started, my concern was for people in the IDP camp. Who will help these people? How will these people sustain? Because they are in the camp, they can't even go out to fend for themselves. Pre-COVID, they have not been fed well. Okay. Pre-COVID, they have not been given what's supposed to belong to them.
What they are due.
Yes, so we've had a lot of news, and now that there is COVID, people are afraid of going out, and it was difficult to even reach out to anybody. I tried to make some moves, and the responses I got was so bad, so it's difficult for me to even say anything specifically about the plight of those people. I read in the news that a lot of things is happening, but realistically, the feedback we got is that what you read in the news is actually not what is happening on the ground.
In some cases, Father Obiese, do you want to say something to the issue of stigmatization?
Yes, I think it's a very important issue. If you remember, at the beginning of this pandemic, it was actually called a Chinese disease.
Indeed,
and
yes.
We heard stories of different countries where, for instance, let me quote Hungary, for example. Hungary had identified Iranian students in Hungary as carriers of this disease into their country, and for that effect, they repatriated 10 students back to Iran on that case. We also see cases where countries that are already what we call migrant-friendly are also closing their borders on the account that they are afraid migrants will bring this in. Even we also had a case in Guangzhou, China, where Nigerians and other black Africans were also maltreated on the account that some of them were suspected to be carriers. So to stigmatize people on the account of their status as migrants on the issue of disease is very bad, because this is something that happens to anybody everywhere. Of course, it is true that it takes mobility in terms of moving from one place to another to transmit this disease, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is migrants that carry that. So that is why the emphasis here is we have a common plague in our hand, which is a disease that all of us are facing, and have to find common solution to that. So, but it will be made worse if we begin to single out people to call them. I don't know if you flew before the flight time was, before the airports were shut down. I remember an experience in Lagos when I was in the waiting
lounge,
waiting lounge, waiting for our flight, and there's somebody sitting close by me cited an European, and another end cited a nation, and he just disappeared. And it was a friend, and I rushed back to him and said, well, he said, you want to stay here and catch this with these people who are parading it? I said, but these guys have been here in Nigeria. He said, no, Every white man and every Asian is a suspect, you know, because
that's
of
a
this.
pity.
So I think it's not good. And as we said, anything done has its impact on every human being.
Indeed.
But there are always double in the case of migrants, whose status, especially as Victor highlighted, the undocumented migrants, those who are in irregular status. You know, everything bad is always heaped on them. So it's not the right thing to do.
You know, I chuckled a couple of seconds ago, but I tell you, it does not reflect, I mean, or belie the seriousness and gravity of the matter we're speaking about right here. Father, and again, I'll stay with you. There is a seeming sense of loss of control and isolation occasioned by prolonged closure of borders between countries. How do we as a global community now build solidarity and raise empathy for vulnerable persons, I mean migrants and refugees, as we strive to overcome the challenges posed by the pandemic?
Yeah, you know, I also want to really be be positive in terms of reflecting, relating to how the world has handled COVID. I actually said that social distancing highlighted the need for solidarity more than the other, because the essence of social distancing is the love for the other, not to transmit the disease to the other person. You know, I prefer physical distancing to social distancing as a term, because I stay away from it because I don't want you to catch it if I have it, because I don't know if I do. So that kind of solidarity. And you also see that countries and philanthropists, actors, different places, pouring in funds, bringing suggestions on what we can do to help. That is a positive energy that I think we can build on. But using that also to go beyond the preventive measures, and also to look at how we use the experience we learn from this to build a common world. I think it begins to tell us that indeed humanity is one. And something that affects one person, irrespective of your color, your race, will actually affect the other person.
Indeed.
And if that is the case, why would we still then discriminate against others on the account of their nationality or the account of their migratory status? So I would say that if we build on the positive energy, the solidarity we have harnessed at this time, to look at holistic approach to migration post-COVID, it would help us to build a better world where everybody is concerned in making the best out of the fellowship we share as people who have come into this world to make it a better place.
Victor, would you like to add something to what Father Obieze just said?
Yeah, I will. It's an interesting topic. You know, globally, we say there is freedom of movement of persons, but every country has their own policy that guides migration.
Very true.
And so when it comes to this issue of COVID-19 migration, there's little or nothing countries can do on their own. It has to be a joint collaborative effort. And so talking about COVID-19 now, I think every country that is affected, especially country that has a lot of their citizens, trapped in these international foreign countries, they need to do a lot of advocacy, come together and form a common front, to address these issues, especially because of the people that we are talking about, the person of concern. Because if you leave it at country level, there's actually nothing each country can do about this situation. They can only cater for the people in their country and not their citizen that is not within their reach.
Would you want me to say something?
Yes, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, Victor raised something very important. The idea that there's no isolation in this solution, seeking for solution. In the last few years, the world has advanced a lot into international cooperation, especially in the area of migration management. And based on what he's saying, no country can do it alone. So what we have already started advocating at different levels where civil society engage with stakeholders, especially policy makers, is to advise that we use existing platforms and policies that are out there already, either in the regional or global space, to engage in the post-COVID solutions, and so that we do not lose what we have gained earlier, as we said. And also such international corporations, like, again, let me cite the GC and the Global Compact for Safe, Order and Legal Migration. The Objective 23 of that compact highlights the international cooperation that would build on collaborative suggestions and solution seeking by all countries. So imagine where a country is building its own post-COVID policies and programs and wants to do it alone, just as Victor said. Even within West Africa, we probably can't do it independent of Africa or in isolation of Nigeria, vice versa. And then we take that globally. So it will be, I think it will be a very lost game.
Counterproductive as well.
Yeah, counterproductive if countries want to go in a silo mentality.
And do it in isolation. I hear you very clearly, Father, like very, very clearly. And I'm not sure if you're aware of the formation of what has been termed mobility bubbles. I mean, it's a term used such as the Trans-Tasman bubble, where the borders have been relaxed between Australia and New Zealand. A couple of other countries have also, which have also successfully curtailed the spread of COVID-19, have made similar announcements as well. But there are those who are worried that these seeming safe zones not only pose a risk to furthering the security rhetorics against migrants from countries with a higher caseload, but they could also lead to a new form of economic isolation. I mean, you've just made allusions to it, economic isolation and globalization. Are you worried that these shifts may reinforce existing inequalities and exacerbate divide within the global community?
Yes, I mean, why would I not be worried, and why would anybody who is concerned about what we call a one world not be worried about it? We have continually made the point that putting some persons aside in our development programs would not succeed in building or sustaining what a country has. There is no country in the world today that does not need migrant strength to survive itself, especially the Western world, where so many factors are making them to need the working force that comes from other populated areas. So the migration bubble and what it helps to do is still having some on this unresolved stigmatization concept that, yeah, we are safe now, so we don't want to get these people coming. We didn't test them to know whether they are coming, and that is really the fear I actually also anticipate when borders are opened and flights begin to run. And I fear for Nigeria a lot, because if we don't get our acts together right now, Nigerian travelers after post-COVID might need to suffer a little more, because you might be subjected to so much screening that must ensure each country you are getting into that you are free. You know, and we have seen cases where people who don't want migrants exploit that to restrict movement and allow people coming in. So in as much as it keeps their country safe, we don't see it as fostering the unity of the human race we are talking about. I want to also say that our colleagues in the Asia and Pacific are already kicking on that, and they're already making what we call civil society statements on free border post-COVID-19. And such issue is what is also on the agenda.
Victor, do you want to add to the discourse?
I think it's going to increase a lot of discrimination and stigmatization, because I remember I had a lot of tickets, cancelled now.
Yeah.
And I just made up my mind I'm not going to travel, even if the borders are open, because I am not, I won't be ready to go through those hassles at the border, because everybody is now, especially because what's happening in America, this Black Lives Matters, they just see you as a potential carrier, even though there is no test done on you. And so I personally just made up my mind. I won't want to go through any stress. So when everything is safe, when the world is safe, and then we can move.
I hear you. I hear you, Victor. I mean, I know you've talked a lot about the migration issue in Nigeria. You actually did that earlier, and you raised some issues. And going ahead now, in talking about how they should be addressed, what should we be looking at? I mean, in terms of solutions now and going forward as we tackle the issue of COVID-19 in Nigeria?
Yeah, for me, I've been talking about post-COVID, post-COVID, post-COVID.
Indeed.
Yes, because I said whatever we're going through now is nothing to compare with what we're going to go through after COVID. And so it's time for all stakeholders to come together and work in the interest of the person of concern, and not in the interest of our pocket, in the interest of the person of concern. You know, both the government, the civil society, the general public, the businessmen, we must all forge a common front, you know, to rescue these people that will be badly affected. A lot of people now are still using COVID as an excuse. But when the lockdown or everything will be over, when the world will be safe, there will be nothing to use as an excuse. And people need survival. Children have to go back to school. That somebody is an IDP or asylum seeker or whatever. Every children must have access to school. They must have access to their basic need. And so we must all come together and see what we can do to sort these people out post-COVID.
Father, can I have your last word on this issue?
Yes. What can we do, and then how do we do it? I think what we most want to do is to make sure that everybody is carried along. And how we do it, again, I cannot overemphasize the need of using existing platforms. And I want to say, give kudos to Nigerian Migration Management right now. It has appreciated the fact that migration is a cross-cutting issue. So there's no ministry, department, or agency in Nigeria that can say it is free from migration issues. And so in moving ahead in managing migration, the migration governance architecture provided for what we call the integrated or inclusive participation. And there it brings in all technical experts, civil society organization, academia, even we also have a relationship with foreign partners, as well as the MDAs to come together in a technical working group to respond to this issue. I think the COVID issue has given us, made it more urgent for us to strengthen this platform and then have a critical evaluation of how it has worked up to this moment and see how it will be improved, so that everything that concerns migration that pertains every MDS should also be held together in this one unified effort of making it work, because the goal of migration governance is that it benefits everyone, the individual, the country, as well as society at large.
Gentlemen, I want to say this: there is absolutely no doubt that at this point in time, the rhetoric, especially on migration, refugees, and IDPs, has to change from discrimination to solidarity. I want to thank you very much for coming on Insight. Reverend Father Emeka Obiezu is the Director of Augustinian Center for Advocacy, Justice and Development. He's also the National Coordinator of Civil Society Network on Migration and Development, CS NetMade. Awau Victor is the Director, Center for Youth Integrated Development, and also a member of CS NetMade. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you on Insight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure too.
And that's it on our interview segment. Up next is the media review segment with Elizabeth Omoruyi.
It's nice to have you join us on the media review segment this week. Nigeria, like most other democratic countries, entrenched the principles of good governance as possible criteria for democratic governance in a 1999 constitution. However, despite this constitutional provision as well as the enormous financial resources, good governance depends on the extent the media enforce the principles of good governance as an institution. Now the question is, what has the media got to do with good governance? And I'll be chatting with the editor, National Assembly Legislative Digest magazine, Dr. Jerry Uho. Dr. Jerry, it's nice to have you join us on the program.
Thank you.
What really makes the media vital in good governance?
Of course, in this era that we have got what we call digital media, it's very clear now that media as a watchdog, therefore the state of the realm. So empirical research shows that the connection between free press and good governance is very clear, because there is a relationship between access to balanced independent programming and improved knowledge and political participation.
Okay.
Democracy is about participation by the people. That's the major ingredient of democracy. And there's only way they can participate if they are not informed. It is when the government policies and programs are made open to them that you see people engage with government, and they also bring in their own way of ideas, either by way of criticism or by way of contribution. That is why if you have things like Good Morning Nigeria,
Okay.
NTA that goes every morning, you invite all caliber of people to air their opinion. These are citizens of Nigeria. You create the platform for people to participate.
Okay.
You have the same thing in other media platforms, including radio. The increasing number of radio stations we have in this country that engage people, the generality of the people every day, ways of communicating, engaging the people, and the people are participating in governance.
Okay, I'd like to quote you there. Let's take Nigeria as a case study. Have the media played its role in ensuring good governance? Sincerely.
Yeah, well, yes, for me, what we have today, the improved relationship between the people and the government, the improved service delivery you see at different levels of government, is as a result of media.
Okay.
If the media had not brought information to the public will not be able to make the contribution. It won't be able to engage government in the particular area. If, for example, the aviation sector is not working, and the aviation correspondent is bringing this news to the mainstream, and people are saying, no, we do not want this, and these contributions force government most times to change their policies on that particular sector. Look at the issue of the closure of border. The media made the hope through reporting. The media made it public how smuggling was affecting productivity in this country, and government closed the border. Today, the people are praising the government for taking such radical decisions that closed the border. And look at our agricultural sector, for instance, as a result of the closure of border.
You know, when we talk about good governance, definitely the issue of accountability will always come up. Have the media been able to hold the government accountable?
If you take our own government in Nigeria, for example, accountability is the ability to provide this account or evidence of what you are doing to the people. When a budget is made, passed by the National Assembly, money is provided to different heads, sub-heads of the economy. The media follows up the implementation of those things for which money is provided for, and able to bring out to the people the information on how their money, because it is taxpayers' money, the money is being utilized in the execution of projects that concern those people. Sometimes it may not be so easy as expected. But journalists also face the challenges. But when you have the Freedom of Information Act that came to help the journalists execute this job, that if you are not able to get this information, they can go to the ministry, and the ministry is obliged by the virtue of Freedom of Information Act to provide the information on how much, on what has been done in this particular area and this particular thing. And they should be able to provide it. So ask me, yes, I would tell you that the media has played critical role in the governance in Nigeria since 1999, especially in the area of implementation of policies, utilization of the taxpayers' money. It may not be easy. Why do we have ICPC? Why do we have EFCC and other agents that deal with issues of
financial crime?
And the media is always there to bring to the public what is going on in those sectors.
All right, Dr. Jerry, thank you so much for your time.
It's a wrap on this episode of the program. It's been quite an enlightening one for me. Elizabeth, how about
well,
you?
it's actually, it's been an expository one this week, and I'm sure it captures every aspect of the nation, of the economy rather. So let's just build a better Nigeria together.
Indeed, indeed. I'll see you same time next week for more on Insights. My name is Nnamdi Odikpo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. We'll see you next week.